Would you look at that? It seems he's finally broken. What's up, guys? Pencil here to do a breakdown and review of chapter 121 of Gachiakuta, which is known as Darkness Falls. And this is gonna be an interesting little review. Once again, I am still experimenting with something a little bit here, so this review may seem shorter than the regular Gachiakuta reviews. That will be the exception, not the rule, I promise. But with it being the case, let's not waste more time and let's hop right into it. Heading me, are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, it opens to have it on me and keep it on me at all times. And another fun fact, this is intriguing. Notably, I kind of figured that this chapter, or at least one of these chapters, was going to end in a certain fellow, a certain wonderful individual, finally snapping and going a little bit crazy. But this is an interesting spot for it to happen. I'll admit. It's an interesting spot for it to happen. But I will admit, it's quite the valid crash out. Let's go into why. So, the chapter opens up with Rudo posing, flexing, showing off. He got the big old blow dryer on his back and he thinks he's like that. He's like, oh, it's over. I'm done. I finished my first job and I'm built like that for real. Only for my glorious King Tamy to come in and be like, buggeroo, let's be real. 1, do you even know it's over? For sure. 2, how do your powers even work? 3, how do you even interact with your powers? 4, what is, like, ultimately seeing Tamy lean into Rudo's inexperience with Tamsy's own experience as being a cleaner and also just being a warrior, being a gifter warrior, or a giver warrior. Why did I say gifter? It's because I'm thinking of a completely different series. That's why I read a series where it's called Gifts recently, not necessarily called Giving. But the givers, essentially, Tamy goes into what he was mentioning previously, where last chapter, or the chapter before that, Tamy was mentioning, he's so strong, but there's so much wasted potential here. He clearly just doesn't know what he's doing just yet. Seeing Tamy lay that all out very clearly for Rudo is interesting on 2 levels. Not only 1, because it puts Tamy in a very good mentoring role for Rudo, but 2, because we know Tamsy's evil. It's that dramatic irony where we're like, wow, this is really good advice for Rudo. He actually needed it. And if any character was going to make Rudo listen to this kind of advice, it probably would be Tamy. I don't think Azanka would have been able to get this across. I don't think Rio would have gotten this across. Heck, I don't even think an engine would have gotten this across. But I think Tamy, and especially because of how Rudo views Tamy, it works out really well for Tamy to play the mentor. And obviously, the more mentoring Tamy we get, the harder and harder the reveal is going to hit for Rudo when he finds out that Tamy recto. So, with it being the case, I like that opening part. Number 2, I do like how ultimately Rudo realizes that, wow, wait a minute, he actually hasn't been cooking. He's been cooking, obviously. We 121 chapters deep, the man's still alive, and he's won a fair share of battles. But notably, a lot of the time is him kind of getting backed up, or saved, or getting extremely lucky with his activations and his utilization of said activations. Him actually being a skilled combatant isn't something that he can really claim just yet. Not only because he literally needs to change his tech every single time he uses it because of how his giving powers work, but on top of that, he just doesn't necessarily have the fighting skill or the comprehension of his own abilities to the point where he can actually claim himself to be on the level of his fellow givers. And seeing him acknowledge that, and seeing him even grip his current net for that reason, I love it. Once again, Rudo is a young character who's actually written very well as a young character. Someone who's arrogant, someone who's brash, someone who has a bunch of energy, a bunch of potential and ability, but ultimately hasn't been using it the best. And in this case, is willing to acknowledge the fact that he hasn't been using it the best and is willing to alter path, change course, work around his current weaknesses in order to make himself better in the long run. Beautiful. Then, of course, we get to see more and more build up to Foyo and his breaking point. And ultimately, he even reaches out to Rudo specifically because he knows that all the negativity that he feels towards Rudo in particular, just being a random kid who fell from the sky, who is a giver while he isn't after trying for so long, he decides ultimately to let his pride go, let his existence go, let that arrogance and the negativity go for a second to try and reach out to Rudo. And of course, maybe, just maybe, if this had actually worked out with his very specific weapon that he was trying to, or his hammer that he was trying to turn into something usable, then maybe he wouldn't be able to connect to Rudo and not till he got later. But of course, they immediately get cut off, as naturally Tamy was right, and as many people predicted, and as was pretty obvious, ultimately that interesting beast there was not actually the complete trash beast, and was only a manifestation of a portion of it. Sort of like what happened with the big beast that was in the forest, how the massive monster that was like running around and smacking everybody wasn't actually the trash beast that they needed to destroy. It was essentially a antibody, or it was a guardian, essentially, to the real thing that need to be destroyed. Same thing here. The house produces a guardian, but the house is the trash beast, not necessarily the dust that it forms into these creatures. Notably, the creature picks up a completely different weapon, where before it was wielding a rake, this time it comes out wielding a cleaver. And I do like the aesthetic differences between the original one, on top of not just the weaponry, but also the clothes. This is what happens when I speak way too fast. Let me slow the pace down. I like its aesthetic differences from the weapon to the clothes, though it's interesting that it specifically takes on this type of form again. Notably, you would think it would go for a larger, more versatile form, but no, in terms of build and I think general design, this is exactly the same. And where before I would have identified this more as a pig, now knowing what its role is and seeing how it operates, I'd say it likely takes on this sort of appearance because it's meant to be a guard dog of sorts, from the floopy ears to the pointed nose. It's not so much a pig, but rather a beast, a wild guarding beast, aka a dog. And we see how this one has essentially Maharaga'd itself, or adapted into combating Rudo specifically. He goes to blow it all away, and he nearly gets blitzed. Notably, his weapon does take damage, though much to the weapon's credibility, I know it's amped by Rudo's Watchmen series, which is very, very good, but still, to see it shatter and break off a piece of it, but not actually destroy it, very, very impressive. Especially considering Rudo himself here doesn't actually dodge, or at least it doesn't look like he dodged. He only moves after the fact, after it swung, and was even, seemingly enough, knocked Rudo off balance. Then, of course, we get to see the further adaptations of this darn thing, where Rudo goes to blast it, but it's so much faster than before that it completely avoids the wind blast, showing that it is likely still susceptible to it, but like, that doesn't matter as long as, because it won't be able to get hit this time. It moves out of the way, once again showing its adaptation. And on top of that, it picked up the cleaver instead of the rake in order to specifically counter their net, both Tamsy's net in terms of what he does with his spool, and obviously Rudo's net, and as in his like literal net that he uses. So it cuts through that, essentially allowing itself to maintain a solid physical form. Now, this is just an impressive feat in of itself, because like we know Tamsy's strings are actually very, very powerful. Like freakishly powerful, like we saw they did the Amo powerful. And for this thing, once again, just like an antibody or a tiny bot protection bot, essentially, to be able to cleanly slice through it, very, very impressive. Or at least slice through Tamsy's rods. Now, of course, is Tamsy holding back? Probably. Like, I highly doubt Tamsy's going all out here. But even so, the fact that it's able to do that at all is very, very impressive for a creature of this caliber. And of course, we see that its evolution is something that Tamsy recognizes alongside Rudo, but ultimately they know, or if not they know, Foyo knows that it's all a trap, all a distraction. And he says, of course, all the trash beasts were coming from in and outside that house. If you think about it, it's simple. It's the house. The main body is the house itself, or is in the house itself. That's the initial assumption. And I don't blame him for that, because like, obviously, you would think, oh, it just chose a home base inside there. But unfortunately, Foyo does make a very dangerous mistake here, where he thinks that it is the inside of the house where the trash beasts are coming from, and not the hypothetical ability of the trash beast to disguise itself as the house. As we see upon Foyo entering it, it immediately mutates and tries to attack him and consume him, which is very, very interesting. I think this is the first example we've seen of trash beast camouflage, I want to say. I know no, I was about to say maybe Zidol's like Giga Gargantuan trash beast also was camouflage, but not really. It was just hidden underground, and that's why when our cast control was knocked out and brought there, they didn't realize where it was. But ultimately, this is the first time I think we've seen a trash beast like evolve to a point of hiding itself and taking on the form of something else, which is interesting considering trash beasts are born of trash, right? So you think they'd always do this, like take the appearance of the initial objects that they were possibly made out of. But no, unless this is meant to be the whole house was thrown away, it simply took the form of a house that matched the village in order to trick and track people like this. Though I'll admit, very, very impressive for the house to be this big and powerful on its own, considering it already has a pretty powerful protector. Though, of course, the protector itself does get immediately destroyed again, as it is still not too powerful. In Maharaga, but in Maharaga that well. And we see that ultimately, while they did manage to defeat it, they managed to defeat it, you know? And Foyo impressively manages to escape the house. Like, I'm shocked they didn't just close his door on him, as he reveals, guys, I found the trash beast's main body. It's the house. And then they realize, of course, the house was controlling the dust. And naturally, the way to destroy the house, or no, the way to solve the mission and ultimately defeat the trash beast is to naturally destroy the house. Now, the question is, how is this one going to work? Like, is the house itself also made of dust? Or is it simply producing dust? And then, like, maybe if you blow the house apart, you need to, like, atomize it. Like, the main question I'm wondering, is it even possible for our current casting crew to destroy the house? Because unless they find its core, which could be somewhere, who knows? Maybe the core is in the roof of the house or buried underneath it. Maybe this is another proxy body. We don't know. But essentially, I'm wondering how they're going to defeat this one. Maybe Tamy can just break it down to ribbons, find the core, and then Rudo can, like, attack it or something along those lines. But this seems like it's going to be one of the more complex ones to take down, considering the complexity of it being a living, breathing, sentient house that can likely take on different forms. So I'm interested to see that part of it. And naturally, we see while Foyo is terrified and genuinely concerned and worried, he does get a bit of a comfort pat from Tamy, and is like, got it. Thanks for the help. Now we won't spend the rest of our lives playing in the dust. All right, shall we do some housework? And then we see that Foyo is like, wait, hold on a second. I can cook right now. Because ultimately, now that he's not fighting dust anymore, he still has his hammer. He's allowed to cook. He's allowed to fight. He's allowed to get into that action. He's allowed to go a little bit crazy. He can debate. He can destroy a house, right? I give you a hammer. I give you a house. You could probably boom, beat. Like, sure, it'll take a while, but still, you could probably cook. But unfortunately, a certain someone just didn't have faith in a man named Foyo. As Rudo says, stand back, Foyo. I'll take care. Wait, no, that's not Rudo's voice. Stand back, Foyo. I'll take care of this. I'll blow that house down. And now, do I think Rudo was at all malicious in this? No, clearly not. He just legit was worried for Foyo and is like, hey, you can't do anything in this scenario. It's a trash piece. Only givers can destroy trash pieces. That's how the universe works. So honestly, I'm going to take care of it. You stay back and stay safe. Of course. That is not how that read to Foyo, who's already been having an identity crisis so far on his nature and in the world itself. Like, now I was going to say, like, his nature is in the cleaners, but we even see from his flashback that just in the general world, a lot of people look down on him like, oh, you're just a supporter of, like, the cleaners? It's kind of wackadoodle-doo. Like, you can't even do anything in the trash piece. What are you doing here? And we see this is Foyo's breaking point. He shatters at this. And he once again registers the distance between Rudo, a giver, who's younger than him, by the way, and Foyo, just a regular human being. And we see that ultimately Foyo cannot stand by this. As the initial thing that he told himself earlier, to try and allow himself to shut down that cold, cold heart of his and reach out to Rudo to try and understand what it means to be a giver, as no one else was able to give him a concrete explanation. And Rudo seems to be a person who could do it possibly, or at least someone he could reach based on their established connection. Now it just doesn't matter. Now, when told to sit back, when told to lock away, when told to just be a good little supporter, don't get in my way. I'm the cleaner here. You're just a ran. Hearing that broke Foyo. And he drops something devious. Excuse me. You can tell. Now, of course, do I think that Foyo is about to tweak out and attack Rudo? No. But I do think he's going to crash out. And I think he's going to end up making this scenario more difficult than it needed to be. That's what I think is going to happen here. Mainly because of how this is framed and how we've sort of been building to this. The breaking point being this, something incidental to, actually works for me. When I first read it, I would have been a bit like, isn't this kind of like a bad time to crash out? Like, sure, he said stay back, but you can tell him, no, you're just going to go in and lock in and help him destroy the house. But ultimately, considering all of what Foyo has been throughout his life, not just like recently in this arc, in the previous arc, no, in his life, and Rudo essentially dismissing him, even if accidentally, yeah, that's gonna get to him, and that's gonna bring him an ungodly amount of rage, and I can't wait to see it in action. But of course, that's what I think. You know what else I think? Yeah! This is a W chapter, a worthy chapter indeed. And if you made it all the way to the end of this video, please leave. No, I'm not gonna. I was gonna do something. I was just gonna say, me excuse? Question mark. But no, leave broken path. As in, you know, the path that Foyo walks is broken as he's not a giver. Leave broken path in the comment section down below. And then thank you so much for watching. Please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you hit that little notification bell so you do not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, you do have a Patreon down below, you support me for as low as $1 a month to get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You can also now become a member to the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Some of those perks will include the live reactions to every other series I happen to review, along with ad-free variations of all my videos. And if you would like to become a $25 patron or a $25 member, you can order whatever video you want. Also, I do have a link to my Ko-Fi in the description down below, where you can drop 5 beans for a short video, 25 beans for a long video, or any beans at all. Any support is always greatly appreciated. Now, I'd like to thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Leather Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our sketch tier members: Greyhound, Eternal Flame, Red Wolf 4765, Astro, Super Flame Zero, Brandon Payne, Glacier XC, G Prosper, Planet Crone, and Zeta. And I'd like to give a big old thank you to our line art tier patrons: Sean, Midnight Lord 21, Kirai Void, Kevin Encarnacion, Igneel Lind, and A+A. And I'd like to give a big old thank you to our ink tier patrons: Fine, Austin Wimberly, A Uchiha, Yuki Ally, and Carlo Alaimo. Then I'd like to give a gargantuan thank you to our digital art tier members: J Warrior and AZ Void. And then I'd like to give a big old gargantuan thank you to our colored art tier patrons: Overlord Zero, Waki Munoz, and iDemokami. And I'd like to give a legendary, top of the line, sublime, sweet mother of mercy, super slopping, juicy scrumdiddlyumptious thank you to our That Guy with a Pencil tier patron, Calvin Elder.